Hello, I'm Magic Al. Today we are brewing the beer. Let me talk about the brewing process. What you see, we have 3 containers, and each container is going to be used for something different. We have our hot liquid tank right here. We are heating this up, and this is our mash tun. We're going to put our grains in this in just a little bit when the water gets up to temperature, and I'll explain all that later, what it is doing when we do it. After we extract all the sugars out of the grain, we're going to put it into the other kettle. We're going to boil it up, add hops and everything else, and welcome to my brew day with Magic Al. All right, we are back, and the temperature, this is right at 160. We want it at 152, but as soon as we add our grains, this is going to be the right temperature. So I'm going to pour in the grains. The grains I'm using mostly 2-row, which is a great workhorse grain. It has a lot of starches, which will convert into sugar. I'm using some carapils, which gives a nice mouthfeel, and it works great with Cascade hops, which I will be using later. And I'm using Crystal 60, which is another good malt, but the 60 is how dark it is brewed, and this is what's going to give the beer a little color. What I'm doing now is I'm stirring all of the grains around so that they do not clump into balls. We want every single grain to be touched by water. That way all of the starches will convert into sugar at 152 degrees. And this process will take about an hour.
All right, let's get a close-up of what we have going on here. Again, this is the mash tun. Go ahead and take a peek inside. And what we have is just the grains soaking in this water. And there is a false bottom at the bottom of this. And this false bottom sifts the water out. It separates the grain, and the water will come out this. The pump will push it through up into this copper tubing. Take a look inside this tank. This water is heated to about 170 degrees, and the grain water will come in here. It's called the mash, and it'll swirl around, and as it's in here, it will get warmer because the surrounding water is hotter than what this is, and then it gets dumped back in. Neighbors. The grain water or the mash will then get pushed back in at a warmer temperature. So as this cools, it will also get warmed up again. And we want to keep it to as close as 152 degrees as possible. So that's the process for extracting the starch out of the grain and changing it into sugar.
We have now completed the mash. I have also mashed out.
What mashing out means is this was at 152 degrees. I have raised the temperature close to 172 degrees. That's ideal, I think, for this kind of malt. And what it does is it rinses the sugars out of the grains a little bit more, but more importantly, it stops the enzymes from changing the starches into sugars, and this will give us a greater mouthfeel when it's actually beer, and will provide a really good head. The head will last longer if we do this. So that's kind of why I've raised the temperature up to close to 172. And what I'm going to do now is basically pump this out of here into the boil kettle. And once I do that, we'll light it up and we'll start boiling and adding hops into the boil stage of the brew process. So we have finished the mash, and we will start to boil here shortly. see, the pump is filling in. It's called a wort after it's been stripped of its starches and put sugars in there. And we're slowly filling up the boil kettle. Okay, we are now boiling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 hops of German Pearl. In my last beer video that I put on YouTube, I reviewed a beer that uses German Pearl hops, and I mentioned I use it quite a bit. I'm using it here. So we have German Pearl, and I'm just going to drop it down in, and it's going to set for 50 minutes, and then we will add our next addition. As we look down, you can see that this is boiling nicely with a great rolling boil. The hop bag is in there, infusing everything with the pearl hops. So let's wait for 50 minutes. All right, we're back. As you can see, things are a little bit different. I took the hot water tank and the mash tun. I took those aside and cleaned them, moved that out of the way. I moved the boil kettle onto concrete. I had a small little issue where the burner was sinking into the ground. You don't want that. It would be terrible to wait until the last minutes and spill all of our wort. Wort, that is a nice term. Wort is this boiling up right here. Wort is the sweet sugar water that you add the hops to that's all boiling. What I have just done, we have 10 minutes left in the boil. I have added my flavoring hops. I have added Cascade, just announced that. And I've added Whirlflock. What's going to happen with the Whirlflock is it will dissolve in this, okay, and it will become part of the wort. Later, when we cool the wort off to put into this fermenter, this Whirlflock tablet on a microscopic level will attract all the proteins that are solidifying in this liquid, and it will become a heavy mass and sink to the bottom, leaving a nice crystal clear beer to be fermented. So Whirlflock is very good for making clear beer. So I've added that. It's going to boil for another, say, 9 minutes, and then we'll add more hops, and then we will get ready to cool it down and add to the fermenter. All right, we have now finished the boil. The hops and everything are in here. What we need to do is, this is boiling hot. We need to cool this down as quick and fast as possible. I have right here a heat exchanger. The hot wort is going to come in this side, and it's going to come out that side. It will be cool when it comes out. I have cold water coming in this side, and it will be warm water going out. The heat is going to transfer from the hot wort to the water, and hopefully this will be about 75 degrees when it comes out. Let's turn on the pump and head at it. And this is pumping through nicely. We'll know our temperature once we get up to the 5-gallon mark. And it looks like we might have 5.5 gallons in here. We'll see where we're at when we are done. Camera for a second. All right, we are approaching the end. I have taken a sample of this for our gravity reading, which I will do on camera here in a little bit. But this is a great golden color. It will be crystal clear when it ferments. It smells awesome. Yeah, this is going to be a really, really good beer. And we probably have another half a gallon to go. And we are right at 5 gallons. So this is perfect. Okay,
I'll go ahead and stop the cold water. All right, let's take a look at this real quick. I don't know how well this shows up on the camera, but this is cloudy. And what it is, it's the wort with all of the sugars and stuff in here, and it's coagulating. Remember the roll flock that I put in there earlier? On a microscopic level, all of these particles are collecting to those roll flock specks that are in this precipitate, if you will. And it is slowly sinking down to the bottom. And all of this cloudiness are the proteins that are in here. And we don't want to drink these. So as it gets colder, these proteins solidify and they will sink down to the bottom and they will be taken out of our beer. So we will not see them again. Let's measure the gravity. We'll just put this in here. We're getting some overflow, which is fine. And as we look, the numbers are reading at 1050, looks to be about 1.058. So that's 1058. And if this yeast finishes out at 1004, we'll have about 5.5–6% alcohol, which will be about perfect for this beer. All right, let's move it inside and pitch the yeast. Hello, we are back. All right, this is my fermenter. This right here is a carrying strap. It makes carrying this nice and easy. Our thermometer, and right now we are sitting at 75 degrees, which is great for pitching our yeast. Down here at the bottom we have a collection ball and all of the solids that are solidifying. How's that? All the proteins that are solidifying are coagulating and sinking down to the bottom and collecting in this. Once we pitch the yeast will convert all the sugars into alcohol up here at the top, and the dead dormant yeast will sink down to the bottom, and we'll close the valve, unscrew this, and get rid of all the trub, all the trash. What we're going to do now is put the yeast in. I have my yeast packet here in a container of sanitized water. I have scissors to cut it open with, and I have a sanitized slotted spoon, which I will stir everything up with to get it all nice and frothy, if you will. So let's go ahead and get ready for that. Let's cut this top off. And we're just going to pitch the yeast. So all of the yeast is now down inside. Take our slotted spoon, stir it up nice and good. All right, the yeast is spread out. The beer is oxygenated. We will put this on. And hopefully in 12 to 24 hours, the yeast is doing its thing. Hopefully what it will do is it will eat all of the sugars, and it'll turn those sugars into alcohol and make carbon dioxide, which will bubble up through this airlock right here and escape into the room. In 2 days, I will take the gunk off the bottom bowl, and then I'll attach the bowl, open the valve again, let everything settle to the bottom, and we'll let it sit about a month there. And then after that, we'll keg it up. So, thanks for watching Brewing with Magic Al. Cheers.